I don't know. I cannot count on my hands for how many years you are cloud security. Many, many years. I will not say how many. He's also a research. He's always can tell you he's always investigating, always going into the technical details. Personally, he's a speaker. He has all the security certificates, CISM, CISSP, CISO. He have everything. So he's a real expert in cybersecurity, and also the executive director at Cybex and co-founder at Red Rock. So, Nitzan, you have the control.
Okay. So first of all, hi everybody, and Leo, thank you for having me. Pramod, I must say that I found your lecture very interesting. We shifted from trying to find the right tools to show us the vulnerability, and then we try to find the right tools to show us what is important. And today, as you, I believe that we need to be more proactive and just not put anything unsecured, in production, and then try to find out where we are going. So first of all, I'm very happy to be here, and I was very happy also to hear that. When Lior talked to me about security in the cloud and so on, so I told him that from my perspective, I just must talk about how to migrate to the cloud. Why? Because I work a lot with the military sector and the financial sector and so on. And even though the cloud, is a buzzword and so on, same as AI, today, AI may be today, but at the time it was a buzzword, I can tell you that a lot of the traditional organizations are heading for the cloud. It is true that most of the organizations are using the cloud at some level, but this is part of the challenge that we are coping even today. And what I'm hoping to do in this short lecture is basically to show you what are the steps and also challenges when we are shifting to the cloud, okay? So let's begin. Okay, so I just wanted to start with some statistics. I think that it's very obvious, when you try to pinpoint and someone asks what to do in the next 3 years, so definitely go there. Okay, so cloud investments and annual investment spendings from the companies, it started from 2013, $22 billion, and you can see that in 2025, of course, up to today, up to a month ago, you can see that the spending is more than $271 billion, and of course, we expect that to increase. And on the other hand, when I'm asking people, why do we move to the cloud? The first thing that they tell me is we want to cut costs, okay? So I think that all the people here that are working in the cloud understand that this is not the first, even though that it is an advantage, it's not the first reason why we want to shift to the cloud. The cloud offers a lot of things other than saving money, even though that I must say that in some scenarios, it's not saving any money. Even you can find yourself in a more expensive infrastructure. So of course, the first one is the flexibility that the cloud is offering. You don't need to have your own on-prem infrastructure, performance. You have better tools, or we can see a shift to a better tool, more automated tools. So if you have a small team, you can do a lot. And again, as you can see, cost is really the last one. And this is from the end of 2024. I couldn't find anything, newer. From security perspective, this is really interesting, because as security professionals, I'm just trying to click. Oh, good. So I need to put the CISO here. Maybe I should have put him not that happy, because from his perspective, a lot of things is changing, right? So when he's shifting to the cloud, of course, there are many things like best practices, security requirements, regulations coming from things that he didn't dealt with before. Even when we're referring to expertise or legacy systems or some things that we cannot just shift to the cloud. So we really have a lot of headache when we are trying to move things or change things that we are doing. And you cannot have innovation without some sort of, without challenges. And when you see the biggest risks that are coming to data security, okay, so even though that the first and the top are external actors, hackers, and so on, I can say that definitely business employees, IT staff, and any connection or relationships that we are doing to that infrastructure that at the time it was closed, you know, in your server rooms or something like that, but today it's online, and we are at cybersecurity. I can tell you that we are missing a lot of things. You are taking people that worked for 20 years with Active Directory and on-prem infrastructure, and you're shifting them to the cloud, and of course you are missing knowledge and you're missing a lot of things. Okay, so let's try to talk about how do we successfully migrate to the cloud. Okay, so the first thing is, of course, any operation needs to start with an assessment of where we are going. It could be a gap assessment, it could be what the management is hoping to achieve, and so on. And again, that phase is really important. I can say that it's the most important phase, because when I see organizations going to the cloud and they just create a subscription or the landing zone and just try to shift servers over there, it's a huge headache to change it after, and also it's a huge headache for, you know, security. The second part, just a second, I cannot click. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. There it is. Okay, maybe I will skip the graphics. So the second one is, of course, to create the migration plan. I will talk about the migration plan in a second. First step is how do we migrate? And there are several tactics and strategies to do that. And the last one is, of course, you know, we don't just want to shift to the cloud. We want to modernize our infrastructure. We want to go to a modern operational model. We want to take all the advantages of the cloud. For some organizations, step 4 seems like something that they should get to, but they just don't. Okay, so let's talk about the different strategies of how we are doing that. So there is a method called the 6 R's or the 7 R's, depends on what you Googled at that specific point, or which ChatGPT or Gemini you asked. But basically, there are several ways to shift to the cloud. The first one, and I will take a deeper dive into each and every one of them. The first one is what we see as rehost. Rehost means you have a server on-prem and you're just moving it to the cloud. You don't take any advantage from what we have from the cloud environment. This is really the basic way to shift. And trust me, we see a lot of organizations that are doing that. On the second level, you see something that we call re-platform. Re-platform is using the cloud at some level, maybe better resources, maybe trying to achieve some benefits, or maybe adding some layers, you know, CloudTrails and so on, but still not utilizing services, native services. The third option is what we call repurchase. Repurchase means that we are starting to change certain services. For example, we are replacing a certain system into a SaaS model. Again, it's not really using the cloud in the right way, but of course, you're making advancements. And next one is retire, maybe decide that what we had on-prem or several systems are no longer needed. So of course, we can remove these. From security perspective, by the way, this is the best option. If we can not have the dual model of on-prem and cloud, this is really the best way. Next is what we call retain. Retain means that we are deciding which applications are critical and we are keeping them on-prem. Okay. In the future, we will refactor them into the cloud. We are starting with the least significant applications, and systems, and processes, and later on, we are reaching to the critical ones, okay? And the last one, which is really the highest one, is what we call refactor or re-architect. It's asking the organization, the IT, the security, to reimagine how they want, you know, the future infrastructure to look like. I must say that from the 20 years of something that I'm in cybersecurity, I've only done this twice, you know? So, you know, not a lot of organizations are saying, let's throw everything and start from the beginning, okay? So these are the 6, 7 methods. The 7, by the way, is refactor or re-architecture. I find them, you know, similar. And let's start to talk about them one by one. So rehost, I think it's the easiest one, right? You just take whatever you have and you just move it to the cloud. Of course, there is no cost in creating a plan. It's really the minimal business disruptions. If you have a computer over here, you're changing it to EC2 or something like that. You know, it's a very simple work. On the bad side, of course, you are missing all the cloud benefits. it will lead eventually to an operation costs because you're not really using the flexibility that the cloud is offering you. And the last thing is that you have a technical debt, basically, because you're doing the same that you did on-prem, you're just doing it on the cloud, right? From security perspective, we have some benefits and disadvantages, okay? So the first thing is when you are rehosting, you're basically taking all your vulnerabilities and you're moving them to the cloud, right? You're taking all your old system and you're shifting them and so on. So it could be that you will have several legacy systems. It could be that it will be really hard to protect some of their infrastructure. Again, I'm not saying that it's not possible. It is possible, but in the end, if you're taking something bad and you're moving to the cloud, trust me, it is as bad as it was, okay? On the other hand, you do get several advantages from, for example, if you're choosing the right cloud provider, you do have certain things that you can activate. You can redo the segmentation. You can have scalability, which at the time you didn't have, better backups. So rehost is not a bad idea if you don't have time to plan and you need to move things, and not just buy a new infrastructure, but it's really the simplest way to do it, okay? The next one is what we call re-platform. Re-platform, is taking what you have and try to add some services from the cloud. Again, it's better than rehost that you're not doing anything. In re-platform, you are trying to be cost effective, you're trying to do it fast, but you're not ignoring the cloud and what they are offering. Of course, again, limited cloud native advantages. There will be vulnerabilities, it will require additional effort and so on. It could be also that the fact that you are doing things partially and you are selecting services that are fitting to the old infrastructure, it could be that this will delay your modernization in the future. It means that you are creating a lock-in, for example, for a specific cloud vendor, or you are doing things that will slow you in the future when you create the big plan, right? So from security perspective, of course, we are still carrying the same vulnerabilities that we used to have. We still have compliance gap, but again, we have good things that are offered, from security layers, as Pramod showed. And again, there are many things that you can do here that are not necessarily related to your specific hosts and servers and so on, but you can add it as a security layer from above, okay? Next, of course, is what we call repurchase. I must say that this is a huge challenge from security perspective. Why? Because, companies see new technology, and today I'm sure that all of you are dealing it with AI, and they want to be there, right? They want to be there without understanding the risks. So it's the same thing here. On the advantages, we want to replace, systems and so on that we had on-prem to SaaS services. Of course, lower maintenance, in most cases, better security. Otherwise, we will not move. We have new functionality, so it's very quickly to give business add-on. Again, it's perfect. Of course, on the con side, you have vendor lock-in because you're selecting a product that you're going to use for a long time. If it's a good product, of course, it's okay. We do have a migration process. I mean, assuming that you are not just moving from one service to another, in most cases, you will want to have your data somewhere located. By the way, if you are keeping both systems, then here you have another security challenge, right? So some security considerations here when you are selecting SaaS services. I'm sure that you are all aware for the shared responsibility model, right? You need to define clear boundaries, what is related to the cloud and what is related to you. We are dependent on the vendor for security, so we need to audit them. We need to make sure that they are doing a good job. It's not just, to select the right vendor. It's also to see that our data is secured and, we don't have any compliance issue or bad security. In good cases, we can use SSO and so on. In some cases, we can't because, again, we are dependent. But if the vendor is good and is doing a good job in patching the system and anticipating threats and having good security in the cloud, so it means that I don't need to deal with it, okay? So some of you might ask, why do I have a cat? Because first of all, cats in presentations is something that is working, I must say. So always, if you are doing a good professional presentation, you need to have a cat over there. But I was referring to the shiny object syndrome, okay? It's a syndrome where people, bring their focus and attention to new and sexy things, okay? I am dealing with it in the last 2 years with the AI, where every second company that I'm working with wants to have AI in so many places, okay? So again, we are all here from security angle. We need to be aware that there are many risks here when we are talking about shiny new objects, right? We have new vendors with very limited experience in cybersecurity, right? We have different tools that are right now receiving our precious data, and it's very hard to protect ourselves, okay? So this is from Refactory. This is from repurchase. As for retire, I think it's the easiest one. If we know that we are shifting to the cloud and we know that we can kill the on-prem system, and again, it's easier if we can take a system that we no longer need or can replace in a certain way. Moving to the cloud is an opportunity to, do some order. When you are arriving to a new organization, you know that you have so many systems that no one is really using or using it in a way that you don't want them to use. So again, this is an opportunity also to fix the process, So of course, it will reduce eventually operational costs. It will simplify the way that you are managing security. It frees resources. It saves money to organization. Again, this is from the pros, okay? From the cons, you know that retiring a system is not always easy. We have several dependencies. There is a potential of data loss if you are not doing migration, or it could be that we want to give some people access to that specific system. So again, it's important to manage that, okay? The last one you will see from a personal experience is very important. It's called user resistance. And you will find out that when you are trying to change something, even if no one is using it, you will find resistance, okay? It's there. Right? From your security, of course, you need to audit to make sure that you are not doing anything wrong. Okay, you need to make sure that no one is using that specific systems or service. You need to check for compliance. Maybe you are obligated to save the data. Okay, some of the challenges, for example, is how do we manage encryption keys for backups and so on? Again, it's a challenge, right? How do we protect the archive files from unauthorized access? It's a challenge, but on the good side is we are removing, legacy systems, vulnerabilities, and other things that used to give us a headache. So today, it's working. All right. Next. So here we have a problem with the title, and I'm sorry about that. It's supposed to be retain. I remind you, okay, retain means that you are keeping the critical systems on-prem or doing, a prioritized shift to the cloud. It means that you are starting with what is not important and moving more and more to the important stuff. Okay, so of course, it means that you are maintaining the critical system, the critical business operation. You are not doing a major shift to the cloud at first. You are doing it in phases. Okay, it gives you time to plan, and maybe less worries. It ensures business, continuity. Of course, it's easier when you're doing things in phases and not in one time. But I can tell you that it also delays, the cloud migration because organizations sometimes tend to keep things the way they are. It means that they say, okay, let's do it in phases. And when you get to the second phase, no one really wants to move, the critical systems ongoing. It means that you need to support legacy systems. It means that you have two systems. You have one infrastructure in the cloud and one on-prem. Now you need to support two infrastructures, but probably with the same people, and again, it's hard. And the last thing is that it requires, current and future investments, but you need to invest in two places. You need to invest in the on-prem, the same way that you did, and you also need to invest in the cloud, hoping that we will do a full migrate over there. And just a few security tips. There are advantages in keeping critical infrastructure on-prem. In some organizations, it's healthy to do it in phases. Okay, we need to be aware just of the problem that people tend, to delay things. All right. So of course, we can keep the infrastructure still secured because it's working. we need to maintain security in two places, okay? We need to think about how the segmentation will work, right? Because we have two infrastructures, one in the cloud and one on-prem. Do they communicate? Do I need to add anything else? And again, if you have legacy systems, this is a good solution until they will retire, which is fine, okay? Right. So the last one is what we call refactor, re-architect. You know, you can imagine how you want your future infrastructure to look like. You are making a long-term plan about how the company will operate in the next 10, 20, 30 years. It allows you to fully utilize the cloud native benefits. You know, you can improve performance, you can use SaaS services, infrastructure as code. In the long run, it will give you cost efficiency and so on. This is the good side. And you remember, for the shiny things, of course, there are no good things without bad things. So it is requiring you to do high effort, right? I mean, in the beginning, you need to make a good plan. You need to have a good migration plan. It will take longer to do it for organization. You need to have skilled people. I have been in organizations that the people there did an excellent job, but the organization didn't invest, you know, in training them. So you have really wonderful people that are working in organization for 10 years, expert in an on-prem infrastructure, but they have no idea how to manage the cloud. So organizations need to know that there is something else to do. You need to train your people. And the last thing, when you're making a huge change, you need to know that also you might disrupt the business. Not everything will work smoothly when you are doing a big change. I don't know, you know, if some of you try to move an apartment, you know how much headache that is. So thinking about moving an entire organization to the cloud, okay? So let's talk about the security considerations. So there will be a period where you will have two infrastructures, right? In the cloud and on-prem, you need to play between the two. It could be that during this coexistence, you will have an extended attack vector, right? Also, it could be that you have done a really bad job in planning that, or you took someone to help you plan it, but he didn't think about all the problems, all the connectivities, all the layers that you need in order to support the business. So in the end, you could do a damage. And again, the plan will take longer. As for the good parts, from security perspective, if you are doing good investments, in the future, you will have a lot of security gains. You will have a better infrastructure, better tools, better built-in tools, which is good for us. Okay, it means that we will not need, you know, to manage vulnerabilities when they happen. We will be a lot more proactive and be able to identify them as any issues. Okay. Also, when we are shifting to the clouds, less legacy vulnerabilities. And last, it's very easy when you're doing something new to adopt zero trust architecture. It's something, you know, that it's very hard to implement in an existing infrastructure, but when you're doing something new, you can do whatever you want. And believe me, I've done this, and it's really wonderful. You have a huge amount of budget, and you can do whatever you want, and you can build wonderful things. Okay. So before I you know, give you time for questions, I will conclude with this. Don't let the fear of the time it will take to accomplish something stand in the way of your doing it. The time will pass anyway. Okay, it means that, you know, when I talk to companies and also information security professionals about shifting to the cloud, they say that it looks huge. I mean, it will take ages to do that. And I'm telling you about conversations that we've been doing for the last 10 years. And, you know, for all of them, I'm saying, look, this is where we're heading. You know, the cloud is there. It's not going to change. We see huge investments every year. I showed you in the second slide. You know, this is where the world is heading. You need to be there, okay? So don't worry if it will take time. You have a lot of way to attack that. I encourage you just to start. You can choose any tactic that you want. Just start, and I promise you that you will get there, okay? So that's it with the cool animation. If you have any questions, I'm here.